Hi everybody and welcome! In today's video you're gonna get something that's quite different from what you usually get on the Sound of AI channel. What I want to introduce is a community-driven project that I hope you'll join into that's called Open Source Research. This is a community-driven research project. In a nutshell, we're going to be working collaboratively together, all the Sound of AI community members, to create a research output and then to publish it in a conference. But now I'm sure you have a lot of questions about this, so just bear with me throughout the video to learn more about the project, how you can contribute, and obviously how you can get involved. But the first thing that I want to talk about is the way we usually do research in academia. And that's kind of a very top-down approach. In other words, you have a scientist, and that's definitely true for AI and specifically for AI music and AI audio. So you have a researcher or a small group of researchers who work together to put together some research and come up with an outcome that then will get published on a conference or in a journal. Okay, what I want to do is something completely different. Rather than having this top-down approach, what I want to have is a bottom-up approach where research is going to be collaboratively carried out by a lot of people, and these people obviously are all the members of the Sound of AI community. Okay, but the open source research project is going to follow a number of approaches or philosophies, if you will. First of all, it will follow the philosophy of open source software. And here we're talking about all of those features like transparency, accessibility, and collaborative making, right? And that is also something common in open research, where you have accessibility of research and all of its outputs. But the third point that I'll be using is that of crowdsourcing. In other words, what I want to have is just crowdsourcing the research process itself, to just modularize it, package it up, and have many people collaboratively contributing in a bottom-up fashion. Okay, but what are the main goals of this project? So the first one is that of coming up with a piece of valuable research, so a research outcome. Now, this can be in the form of a new application, a new methodology, a new algorithm, or a new experiment that advances knowledge in AI music. And specifically, the subfield where I want to work is that of generative music or AI music creativity. And basically the idea is that once we have this research done, carried out, the next step will be to write up a research paper so that we can just package all the new stuff that we created or that we discovered, and then we'll move on and submit the results or this paper to the 2021 Conference on AI Music Creativity. Now, this is a conference that's focused, the name gives it away, on AI music creativity. So all things generative music, automatic performance, all of this kind of stuff. Now, the web page for this conference is not available yet because the conference organizers are still working on this, but I can just give you an overview of what the previous iteration of this conference looked like. So here we have the website for the 2021 Joint Conference on AI Music Creativity, and so this was hosted in October, so earlier this year. And here we had all things regarding AI music creativity, so automatic music generation, automatic performance, and stuff like that. Okay, so now let's get back to this presentation. So now I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions. So what I'll try to do in the remaining part of this video is to try to answer to as many questions as you may have, and convince you that this is a great project to be part of. So first of all, who can get involved in this project? And really is all the members of the Sound of AI community. So how do you become a member of this community? Well, it's quite simple. So you just join the Sound of AI Slack channel, and I'll leave you in the description box below a sign up link to the Slack community. Okay. But that's not the only thing that you may have in mind. So like another thing I'm sure like you'll be asking is, okay, but do I need certain specific skill sets to be part of these projects? Well, not necessarily, because the idea is that there are going to be many different tasks which will need many different skills. So no matter your background or skill set, you'll probably find something that you can contribute with. The only thing that's super important though is that you are passionate, or at least have a strong interest in AI music. And one other thing that I think like is just like baseline is that the moment you commit onto like some work, then you'll just like follow through on that. And that's fundamental, because in a collaborative project, the overall outcome of the project depends on the work of the individuals, right? Okay, next question, how can you contribute? And so this is once again connected with the idea that this is going to be like a quite complex project with a lot of skills that are going to be needed. And so here I'm listing a few of the main things that I have in mind, or that are main like tasks that we'll need to carry out in order to, just like go through all of this research project. So you can contribute by brainstorming ideas, so coming up with a topic, brainstorming solutions, or carrying out some literature review, reviewing or reading up a lot of like the academic literature on a certain topic. You can write code, you can test code, you can write documentation, you can evaluate code. You can search for data sets online, or you can build data sets if the topic that we choose will need one. And you can also manage the project and definitely write up research. So as you can see here, there are a lot of different things. And so probably you'll have something you can contribute to. Okay, so the next question is, what do you get by participating? Okay, and the great news is that if you decide to participate, you'll receive an NVIDIA RTX 3080. I'm just kidding, that's not true. But yeah, that's not the point. So you'll receive like something, a reward that's way more impressive than just like a graphic card. And that's something immaterial. And this is something that you'll get both if you are a newbie, if you are like a newcomer to research, and also if you are an expert researcher. Now, let's take a look at what you'll receive if you are a newcomer. So first of all, you learn how to carry out research. And this is an extremely important skill in today's world if you want to be an AI music engineer or a researcher, obviously. You'll learn how to write up research, which is also another extremely important skill to have. And you learn from more experienced researchers because of the structure of the project and the way like this is carried out. So you'll interact with people who are more experienced than you, and you can learn just by seeing what other people, more experienced people, are doing. And finally, you can network with other researchers and practitioners who are active and have experience in the field. Now, what about if you are an expert researcher? There's still something you can learn for sure. First, you're going to improve your project management skills quite a lot. You have the opportunity to give back to the community. And I think like this is something extremely important. And the whole I would say like the whole point of the Sound of AI channel is about this, giving back to the community and just like tutoring, training researchers, new engineers, and having a positive impact. Then you'll have also the opportunity to network with other researchers so that you can create collaborations and just like share ideas. And final point, which I think is super interesting, is that you'll experiment a new way of doing research. So what I have in mind for this project, for the open source research project, is that not only this is going to be like a super cool event, a super cool project, but also it's going to be an experiment for seeing whether it's possible to carry out research in a non-traditional way. And rather than having like a top-down approach, having research in a kind of like bottom-up approach. And hopefully this new way of carrying out research can actually overcome some of the issues that we have in traditional research in workflows. So one of the issues that I have in mind here is that of like focusing on quantity. So publishing a lot of papers no matter the quality of the papers. So my idea is that with this open source approach, research approach, we're going to have high quality research outputs, and at the same time we're going to have a huge impact on the community itself. But that's just like an experiment, so we'll see whether this is the case or not. Okay, now everyone participating in this project is going to get all of these benefits that I'm listing here. So you'll be part of a unique research experiment, and I've just like mentioned some of like the perks of being like part of this. You'll work on a super cool research topic with very interesting people, so you'll be part of a great community, and you also have the potential to have an impact, a real impact on the field of AI music, which is kind of really cool. Okay, so now the next question that you may have, if I've convinced you that this is like a really cool project to be involved with, is, okay, so how can I get involved, right? So here you'll have to follow a number of different steps. Unfortunately, like the sign-up process is a little bit convoluted, and you'll understand why that's the case in a while. But the first thing you should do is fill up the survey that I've linked in the description box. So let me just give you a hint of what this survey is. So it's a simple survey, sign-up survey. So I'll ask your first name, last name, a few stuff regarding your background, and finally I'm gonna ask for your email down here. Now this is important for signing up to the project, and the reason is that I really need like those emails because I need to invite you to a number of different online services that will be needed for just like the activities, the research activities that we'll carry out. We'll talk a little bit more about the different project tools involved in this project in a while. Okay, so the next step that you can do autonomously is that of joining the Sound of AI Slack. Once again, the sign up link is in the description below. But if you are already signed up to the community, then yeah, you're all set to go. And then in a few days, you'll receive an email from myself, and I'll give you a bunch of like different like instructions and stuff. And you'll also be invited to join a couple of online tools like Google Drive and Trello. More on this in a second. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about organization of the project. So we have a bunch of different project roles. So myself, I'll just coordinate the project, and yeah, I'll manage it. Then I'll probably appoint a few lead researchers among the most experienced people in the community. And these people will manage certain aspects of the project. So there may be a lead researcher who's in charge of literature review, another one who's in charge of coding, another one who's in charge of evaluation, for example. And finally, we have the contributors. And now the peculiar thing about this project is that the contributor will be the ones who really steer the project. So contributors will have a say in all the steps of the project. Now, let's take a look at what these steps are. So we'll start from topic selection. So we need to choose a topic, and we'll do this like with some brainstorming sessions. Then we'll move on and we'll try to do a good literature review so that we can get an idea of that topic and all the work and the state of the art in that topic. Then we'll move on to some kind of solution design and solution implementation. Here, a solution is very ambiguous for the time being, because this solution could be a methodology, it could be an algorithm, it could be a user study, right? Or a methodology. It really depends on the type of topic that we'll choose. Okay. Afterwards, we'll work on evaluation or analysis, if you will, of the results. And then we'll have like a write-up step where we just jot everything down on a paper. After that, we'll submit the paper to the conference. And then once we receive revisions from the reviewers, then we'll just like take a look at the revisions, like at the reviews, and we'll implement the asked revisions. Okay, now one thing that I want to stress here is that all of these steps are not set in stone. They are just indicative of like the different phases that I intend to like divide the research project into. But it may well be that we'll need to readapt some of these steps depending on the topic that we choose and some hurdles that we'll encounter during the path. Okay, so and the other thing also is that some of these steps will run in parallel and they'll feed back into each other. So it's not like a cascade approach. Okay. Now, what about the timeline? So here, what I have in mind for the project from start to end to be within 5 to 6 months. But the ultimate deadline is the submission deadline for the 2021 conference on AI music creativity. As I mentioned earlier, we still don't have a website for this conference yet, but from what I know, the conference should actually be hosted in July 2021. So this is just like to give us like an order of magnitude, an idea of the date, the ultimate date for the conference itself. Okay. So that's about the timeline. Now, another aspect that's super important regarding the project is the tools that we'll be using for managing all of these different activities. And these tools need to cover different aspects. So one is communication, another one is collaboration, and a third one is management. And for all of these different aspects, we'll use different tools. So for communication, we'll use Slack, the email list, and Zoom. So Slack will be the central space where we'll communicate to update each other and just like to provide like news and information about the project itself. Through the mailing list, I'll just send general news or information about upcoming brainstorming sessions or just like live sessions. And then we'll use Zoom just like to hop on a call and brainstorm ideas and talk to each other. One thing about Slack, so Slack obviously is going to be like the Sound of AI Slack community, but we'll devote a special channel just for this activity, and that channel is going to be named Open Source Research. Okay, moving on to collaboration. We'll use Google Drive for a couple of reasons. First, we'll use it to store data, store articles regarding that we discovered during the literature review process, for storing notes, all of like the stuff that we need that we need everyone to have access on. And at the same time, we'll use Google Docs for writing up the paper itself so that we can work collaboratively on that. Then we'll use GitHub for collaborating on the code, and we'll use Miro, which is an online tool for brainstorming session. Miro is a whiteboarding tool, so we can use it just like to, brainstorm ideas and have like a way of like just putting stuff on a whiteboard, a virtual whiteboard. Finally, for project management, we'll use Trello. Probably some of you are already familiar with Trello, but this is a kind of visual tool for managing projects following the Kanban management philosophy. So you'll have like all different columns. So one could be like backlog, another one to do, doing, done, archive, for example. And in each of the columns, you'll have cards with tasks which people can be assigned to, and then you can just like move from one column to another while you progress during the task itself. Okay, now I'm sure you'll have a lot of other questions regarding all of this stuff. So where can you learn more? Well, I have a web page for the Open Source Research. and it's this one that you can see here. So you can just like come here and take a look at all the stuff that I wrote down here. It's basically an extended version of what I just told you guys, and this is hosted on GitHub, and it's part of the open source research repository. Okay, so I'll leave you the link to this webpage once again in the description below. Okay, so now if you're excited about this research project, so the next thing that I'm sure you want to know is, where do you go next now? Well, the next thing you should do is fill up the survey that you'll find in the description box below. Just go there, fill up, submit, and wait for my further instructions. Now, a couple of words to close off this video. I'm really super excited about this idea, and I'm really looking forward to collaborating with you guys, and I'm sure that we can create something fantastic. Not just the research itself, but also like the process, and enjoy the process of doing collaborative research. And I'm sure that all of us will grow a lot, no matter if you are an expert researcher or you are a beginner in AI music or AI digital signal processing. You are gonna enjoy this journey quite a lot. So I'm really hoping to collaborating with you in the coming months, and I hope to see you in the Sound of AI's Slack community. That's all for today. Stay tuned for more. I'll see you next time. Cheers for now.